I'm really looking forward to getting into a conversation with Omoyele Sowore, who is here with us, an activist known to some as an activist, a pro-democracy campaigner, founder of the online newspaper agency Sahara Reporters, and the founder of and presidential candidate of the African Action Congress. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you for bringing me.
Yeah, we have some pertinent issues we want to discuss with you concerning Nigeria.
Yes.
But let's begin with your affairs. I want to read from an article I came across in the Premium Times. It says, Mr. Sowore was accused of failing to comply with the statutory requirements of the party to hold NEC meetings. The activist was also accused of misappropriation of funds. He has denied any wrongdoing, it adds. Is this a case of the hunter becoming the hunted?
No, it's a smear campaign.
Okay, it's a smear campaign, okay.
Yes, yes. The first presidential candidate to declare the accounting of all the proceeds of my campaign. No one else. There are over 71 presidential candidates, including the current president and the PDP presidential candidates, Abubakar Atiku. These guys have been in politics longer than I have been. They know the consequences of making open declarations of how they receive and spend money. But I did, and not only did I do that, I put it online so that anybody who might have issues with it can challenge it. It's on Sowore2019.org.
Okay.
So where I broke down how much was received. But before I did that, I was also one of the first presidential candidates in the history of electioneering campaigning in Nigeria who raised money openly and opened a GoFundMe account. And on GoFundMe, you can find all the people that donated money to the campaign, their names and how much they donated.
Okay. And
also had a local account with Zenith Bank open in my name where I raised money for the campaign. And between those two accounts, we raised about 158 million naira. So you can't find any presidential candidate giving you direct estimate of how much they raised. So, but because of the issues that were touched upon during the campaign, the fact that I was probably one of the most combative candidates and one of the most prepared and had some of the best ideas and one of the probably most traveled to 34 states across Nigeria without security.
Okay, well, what about the NEC meetings, the allegation?
The NEC meetings is also false. The party was formed in August last year, so it'll be a year. We had a convention after that, and after the convention, we went into elections. The elections ended in February for the presidential election, and then the governorship followed. And then there was a crisis in Rivers State where our party was merged in some holy alliance with the APC. And Rivers State dragged on till about 2 months after that. So effectively, elections were not ended until March. And we told our party members that having done a whole year of non-stop campaigning, we would go and take a break and come back and rejig the party. So no other party has also done any NEC meetings.
Okay.
Yes, that we know of. But the person who claimed there was no NEC meeting didn't do NEC meeting either. Okay. He just arranged some fake people and met in a hotel, brought in the media, paid for by Governor Wike in Rivers State because he had interest in the party. The AAC candidate was his main opponent and the guy had gone to court. So, and they started spreading all these lies and propaganda that we had not had NEC meetings. They claimed they had 3 NEC meetings. Nobody, they couldn't present evidence of it. Even in court, they had no evidence of any place they had it. They claimed the NEC meeting they had happened on the 27th. No evidence of it. Brought in names of people they said had attended. Some of the names were written in 3 places. Some of them had people who had left our party and rejoined the PDP. So it was all fake. But, you know, that's Nigerian politics for you.
Wow.
And that was what some of us had come to sanitize.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I want to get your take on post-elections because for some of us, you're like the insider person who has had this experience of campaigning, running for presidency. What are your takeaways as regards the election experience?
It's that the election itself was open aggression against Nigerian people. I would be lying to your viewers if I say that a credible election took place. There was no credible election. What happened was that there was the date of election announced. They postponed it because, of course, they couldn't meet the logistic needs of the election and then postponed by a week. And by the time that postponement, the election was eventually held, they just used soldiers, they used area boys, thugs to disenfranchise people. You saw that in Lagos, plenty of evidence of that.
Okay.
And then, so instead of the election happening at the polling units, it then eventually happened at the collection centers.
But then, we saw you make comments and that almost started sounding like a prophecy when you say you'll sweep out the behemoth of, APC and PDP.
Yes.
What were the specific things that stopped you from delivering on that? Because people came to believe.
It's because of the crooked way of electioneering that took place. If people had been allowed to choose based on the ideas that were propounded during the election, I am pretty sure that they would have chosen me over a Buhari or an Atiku. There's no question about that.
But couldn't the crooked ways have been foreseen even when you were optimistic from the very beginning?
We were talking about it. If you watched me in a town hall meeting with Kadari Ahmed, she asked me the same question. What would you do if you lose this election? And I say, if it's a free and fair election, there's no way we can lose.
Okay.
But the prophecy is that it wasn't free and it wasn't fair. And everybody lost, including those who claimed they were winners, because they can't even defend their victory.
Okay, so it wouldn't be fair to say, I don't want to put words in your mouth, that you're disappointed in maybe the turnout of the youth on your behalf, because you were relying on them.
We were relying on them and people did turn out.
Okay.
But the question is, there's a difference between turning out and for your votes to count. And there's nobody who has counteracted that, said that these elections were free and fair. And even at the tribunal where the two behemoths are fighting themselves, the winner can't prove that they won.
Okay.
And as a result...
Because the waters are so muddied.
Yes, the whole thing is so crooked. It was a fraudulent process. Mad with violence. It was a calculated attempt to ensure that people don't have faith in the electoral system ever again.
Was it worse than previous elections, do you think?
I would say, there's no previous election that is bad that should be described as better. Yes. So elections are supposed to be good or bad. So any election in the past house, you can have, yes. Any election that was also the same mode, it's as bad as they are, But we've also had elections that were okay. June 12 I think generally 2015 election was fairly okay. But I wouldn't say that
it was free and fair.
It was free and fair, but it's also it's a function of perception. If people think that elections are free and fair based on certain situational variables, then you have to respect that. But this one, it wasn't an election.
Wow. So I ask again, what are the takeaways in terms of how do you see us finding our way out of this quagmire going forward?
It's not to see election as the only solution to protecting the democratic rights of Nigerians. You see, democracy, like every concept of government, is like a vehicle that needs to be serviced from time to time. And sometimes, if you go service your vehicle, the mechanic might tell you that you need an engine replacement, And if you need an engine replacement, that's a major thing you have to get more mechanics involved, And sometimes you may have to total the car completely, jettison and junk it so that you can get a new car. Sometimes you might decide that to get the life of your car prolonged, you need to fix the roads.
So where are we at?
So right now, I think we should really be thinking seriously about taking on the system. I'm more now in favor of a revolutionary intervention.
And how do you see that revolutionary intervention playing out?
Yeah, playing out is that people get up and reject any form of inhibition that has prevented them from realizing the real objective of democratic presence in the country.
So protesting?
Yes, protest is a major thing. I recommend protest. I recommend non-violent actions.
Yes.
Even though sometimes it's difficult to pin people down to a particular means of response, considering that the state will not just respect the boundaries of their power. So, but that's where I stand. Yeah, that yes, a series of protests could help fix the vehicle. We could, in the middle of this whole thing, say, look, this thing doesn't work for us anymore. The leaders have treated us so badly. And we reject and say enough is enough. Okay. And the next day we'll have a brand new country, or at least mindset.
Yeah, I mean, recently we've seen more protests over various issues, whether the assault or the rape case. Does that encourage you? Would you say you're more discouraged than encouraged, or the other way around?
It's encouraging, but that's not enough yet. We need something that is total and paralyzes the system to the point that the system is, put on its knees to respect that people are no longer going to accept this tokenistic governance that takes the country nowhere. Okay. So it's just like, again, I use the vehicle analogy. You put people in a vehicle, you say let's move, and then you take off the tires.
Yeah. What do you say about e-voting, for example, as a way forward in terms of?
I support e-voting, electronic voting. I support the idea that every Nigerian should be able to vote wherever they are. And I also strongly support, diaspora voting, so that Nigerians, about 6 million of them, some people say 20 million outside, can also partake in choosing their leaders because they are part of the economic engine room here. Right now, it looks as if diaspora remittances are way more than oil earnings for us. So all those things need to be in place. But even to achieve the minimum conditions for this free and fair and technological-driven, transparent elections, you have to force the hand of the authorities. And that's why a revolutionary approach is something that I am talking about. So I moved from take it back now to revolution now.
Okay, yes. you stepped up it up again.
As an upgrade.
Okay, well, let's even look at a specific issue that's on the table now. Some people are really frustrated at the fact that we're experiencing what seems like deja vu.
Yes.
Here we are again, 2019, and 4 months even after the election results were declared, and we still don't have our ministers. What do you say to that? Is there any reason for that? Because
the people who won the election have no plan for the country. And as a result, you can't build something on nothing. This is their characteristics. This is the characteristics of negligence and incompetence. These are the symptoms. And it's all over the place. And these guys are not going to change their ways. This is how they do things. They don't care about us. We have this misconceived assumption that they care about us when we're asking for ministers. Even when they bring the ministers, they're going to bring the same dead woods from the system. It's not going to inspire anybody.
But let's say we even took him at his word. The president has said that this time around he wants to appoint people who are personally known to him rather than people who are recommended. Yeah. Would that be a good... Again, on the back of the fact that what you are experiencing, going back to the first area we looked at, seems to be like an internal conflict. The person who made the allegations against you was from within your party. Would you sympathize with him for trying to get people he can count on or rely on?
People that he can count on are the likes of the ambassador of Nigeria to the US, the 82-year-old guy who goes to work on a wheelchair. I don't have a problem against old people, but it's just not going to be able to catch up with this very energetic and dynamic country of ours. So people that Buhari can count on are people who are within his province. He's known as a provincial person who doesn't see beyond his village, his religion, and his ethnic group. So if we are counting on that, then things will even be worse.
Wow.
Yes, things will be worse.
So let's just postulate. Let's say you had been elected president.
Yes.
How would you have gone about naming and appointing your ministers?
It would have been done in a week. That's maximum. We were even ready before the elections with some kind of a shadow ministerial list of Nigerians.
How do you even sift? How do you find the right people?
Well, apart from being a a political activist. I've also done investigative journalism a lot.
Okay.
And I can do background checks on people. I do it for free. So it won't be a problem to do it for my cabinet. I can background check on people. And then as president, within a week, you should be able to check even within the security agencies what's available with regards to these people's background. But generally, it's the easiest thing to do. And they would have been made up of very, very competent, mostly young people. I'm not going to hide that. We were going to have a ministerial composition, a system that's composed of 50% women and men, so that balance will be there. And, it will have all the balancing that is needed, but mostly tilted towards competence.
But educate us a bit, because some of the arguments against bringing in new people at the time of the campaign was that they needed people who understood the system, who could work, because no matter who you appoint, they still have to work with the existing people on the ground who are very knowledgeable in the politics, the internal politics. So how would you weigh that? Would you still try and look for people who are experienced in terms of the everyday politics?
We look for people who are experienced to do what is right. Governance is very clear. It's about delivering services to the public. So if someone can do it, that's the person who will hire. We are not going to look for experienced thieves, because we already have too many of them around. Or people who are divisive, or people who know how to lie, or people who know how to pretend.
But you're not worried that the system will weigh those people down?
No, it will not weigh the people down, because we are going in there to change the system. And we had elaborated on how the system will be changed, including, if necessary, when we get in, we find people who are non-productive, we can retire them early and give them a payout so that they can leave the system alone to rejuvenate itself. It wasn't going to be a problem. I made a lot of pronouncements during the election, and people were like, wow, how could you do that? Some of them were even shocking. And I told them I would sack all the generals who have been fighting wars and can't win. If you're a general and you can't win a war, you're not deserving of the epaulette on your shoulder. So I will do that. We will do a serious, immediate purge of the system. I would have told the Inspector General of Police that I will keep changing you, the Inspector General, until you're able to curb crime. I'm not interested in an Inspector General of Police who comes to sit on the floor in my office, kissing my feet. I need a guy who needs to be on the field, who can be on the field. And then ensuring that when we say we want to buy this, we pay for it and they are delivered to us and the monies don't disappear. Let me tell you from my investigative journalism background experience, I would almost tell you that maybe 80% of Nigeria's budget annually is mismanaged. And it is because we don't have a process in place to track money. Ensure that there's delivery of services. But you can do that with technology. There's a lot of technological inventions that would have brought into government that would have changed all of that within months and days. So that people can track their money, where it's going. We can track where money is going, which contractor. I said I would have made public every company that's registered in Nigeria and their directors. I would have made them public, searchable on the website of the CAC, and ensuring that when we give a contract, we list the name of the person, company who had a contract, and a delivery date for the contract, so that citizens can, on their own, be tracking those contracts. That's what we see when we leave the shores of this country. Contracts are not shrouded in secrecy, so that you have a very transparent level of accountability that can also be driven by the masses.
Yeah, you make it sound so simple. Some would say you don't have 9 lives. Do you not factor in this cabal? Everyone keeps talking about that.
No, we were coming.
Hold us to ransom.
We're coming as a cabal side. We're coming to kill the cabal. And their way of doing things. And it's simple. I have confronted this cabal. I have inside information about how the cabals operate. These are a bunch of cowards who are driven by greed. And the moment a leader comes into office and he understands the working of this office and how things should be, and is courageous enough to stand against whomever is standing in the way of progress in this country, trust me, they will start fizzling out.
So just in case people are not appreciating what we're dealing with, still talking about the delay in appointing ministers, what kind of fallout are we looking at? The longer we wait, the longer it takes for us to know who is in charge of which department.
The last time it happened, Nigeria slipped into depression, economic depression, whatever or the other name they call it. And it was because there was nobody in charge. Even the so-called markets react to, sensitive to these decisions. Who is your finance minister? Local, international investors, contractors. The general public mood reacts to, the confidence or lack of it that comes from people who are helping to manage the country with the president. And that is why you see countries that are serious don't waste time in naming ministers. The US doesn't waste that. They don't take
South Africa.
South Africa. You should have your list ready.
Okay, well, let's look at something slightly different. Some would say you're not adverse to taking the road less traveled.
Yes.
And I read recently that you met with the declared Indigenous people of Biafra and leader, Nnamdi Kanu.
That's right.
What inspired you to have that encounter? And did you come away from it with any inspiration of your own?
Well, I am someone who had put out myself as a candidate who wants to run Nigeria, who wants to run a united Nigeria. And there are grievances, deep grievances within the country that is going on in the Southeast, and it has historical antecedents. And from a standpoint of someone who is sensitive to news and who understands the working of social movement, I can tell you categorically that the Southeastern part of the country has developed a social movement known as IPOB, the Indigenous people of Biafra. If I had been elected president, I would be having a meeting with this guy by now on how we can resolve our differences, how we can, end the bitterness, the division that has made it so toxic now to talk about Nigeria. So I wanted to meet him to understand what are his needs, what was driving this whole issue.
Did you gain any understanding?
I did. In fact, coming out of that, I realized that, the struggle for Biafra at this point is a struggle for justice.
Okay.
It's not a struggle for division as much as we see it. But it's clear to a lot of people on that side of the world that the justice they need to reintegrate them into a so-called united Nigeria is not going to come. They have seen that our leaders are impervious to reason. They are, they are opposed to, a just, fair, and egalitarian society that embraces everybody.
So some would say on that note that almost every tribe feels marginalized at this point.
Absolutely.
So how would you reach out? Would you reach out in the same way to, say, the Fulani headsmen?
I actually met a Fulani headsman on my way from Jalingo to Yola.
Okay.
During the election, I stopped, I saw him, he had about 400 cows. And he was shocked, and I called, I had an interpreter who was a policeman who was with us, and said, can you please ask him what he needs? What is it? Why are you guys like this? And he said, look, it's not all Fulani headsmen that is violent. And I asked him what he would have done for him to stop him from traveling 40 kilometers at a time with all these 400 cows. Won't you prefer if we can put you somewhere, a ranch? He said yes.
Oh, really?
Yes. Yeah, this was covered during the election. So I'd already met Fulani headsmen, and I would have met more of them. But you have to distinguish between the Fulani herdsmen who have legitimate, issues with how they raise their cow and what happens to farmers in the process of doing that. And those who are perpetrating criminal activities, we would have separated it. We deal with the crime first, and then we then have dialogue around how to ensure that those people who are walking around with their cows for forage are taken care of. And it was our proposal during the election that we'll have ranches across the country, not rural settlements.
Okay, you stressed that.
These are different things. A settlement is a place that you are evacuating people from and putting in new people. And they come, when you resettle people or you settle people somewhere, it comes with rights, and some of those rights could be rights to land ownership. But what the commercial ranching could have done is not to allow anybody to settle anywhere. You take your cattle into the ranch because the ranch is operated by someone else, or a group of persons, or even a third-party commercial
enterprise.
You go in there, you register your cow. In the US, they even have numbers on cows, and they have access to what is available because it will be hydroponic. It's around water, and they graze. And after you're done, the place can also be a place for transaction. Okay. Where people can come and buy the cow, so you don't have to move the cow to another place.
And then
sell your cow there.
Other people will get into ranching.
Exactly. I keep talking about Redeemed Church and Redeemed Church of God. I would love them to have a ranch.
Okay.
Because they eat a lot of cows.
Oh, really?
In that place. Every year they have their Holy Ghost Congress. They eat about 20,000 cows. Why can't they have a ranch? The beef industry is a $3 billion industry.
Hearing you, what comes across to me loud and clear is that we need more dialogue. We need more, because you're meeting with people one-on-one. You're taking what they're saying and you're using it as a form of a basis for consultation, which people are itching to be heard.
Yes.
So we want to hear more from you. We want to know, what does the future hold for Omoyele Sowore?
Well, whatever the future holds for me is what the future holds for Nigeria. I am one of those Nigerians who have been away from Nigeria for a while, even though I keep coming back, who's never abandoned my citizenship. I want to get engaged with young people to have a mental understanding of what they need to do and where they need to stand. That is not ephemeral, that is not shallow. We have to build movements. We have to build real human beings to understand that, look, if you are going to enjoy this country till you are old, you better fight for it, so that you are not perpetually trying to run away from the country. Those of us who have done the running away, we get to a point where we get tired, we miss home, because there's no way you can get accepted into other societies as much as it would be in your own society. That's what you were mentioning when you mentioned if there are not other people who are tired of Nigeria. I said it, I've been quoted of saying that most Nigerians have mentally seceded from Nigeria. So it's not the IPOB people alone that are doing it. It's just that they are the most organized, physical, vocal, social movement. But most of us in this country, a lot of people have left Nigeria.
They've checked out.
They've checked out of Nigeria. They're just trapped here. It's their body that is trapped here. So, when people do astral travels at night, I'm sure Nigerians are completely empty. Everybody just travels somewhere in their dreams, a better place. Young people in their multitude also can't do it, except there's some kind of organizing, and I'm hoping that I can be a catalyst for that organizing organization that will bring more young people to understand what needs to happen beyond just sports and entertainment. It was the reason why I fought so hard during the election, and I did not accept the insulting, counsel that I should go and wait for my time, or that I'm too young to be president, or that I should go and start from a local government or a senate. And the question I ask from such people which they can never answer is, how does a country ask its best brains to go to the local government and its dumbest to go to the presidency? Nobody can answer that question. Nobody has been able to get back to me.
So no regrets, really?
Not at all. It's the reason I won't give up, and I hope others will not give up, and I hope more and more young people are now conscientized to the reality that this is not rocket science to take back our country.
Okay. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure talking to you.